get to start recording, please remind me. Please remind me. So we're continuing to examine the article of the internship, the AD in British consultancy company Elixir. So we talked about that. She started to work on the digital transformation project in the big insurance corporation. And Adi said that every step of the way I was given guidance on my work and advice on what consulting life has to offer. The important part of this experience was that I was constantly encouraged to ask for help and provide my ideas and inputs during project calls and meetings. My ideas were given the chance for consideration. I won't lie and say it wasn't challenging. However, I felt it was completely worth it. I was fully immersed in what it's like to be a management consultant right there on the client side. So here in this part of your speech, we also can see the values of one uh, particular generation. And by the way, that's the Y generation. If you can examine this information in the internet, generation theory. So we said that the X generation is more goal oriented, more structural. They like achievers. Uh, and the Y generation that was born in 90s and late 90s and the beginning of late 80s and the beginning of 90s. So between 1985 till 1995, so that period roughly. And their values, they want to help the world. They want to make something significant. They want to have a to make a unique value for the world. And that are the values of that generation in a few words. And here we also see their values of ADA. So Eddie. And Eddie also said that most mornings started with 1 hour individual interview session with each of the 28 key digital studio stakeholders who are clients, executives, ranging from the vice presidents to C-level leaders, ADC level management. The importance of having the one-on-one sessions was to build support, drive alignment, and involve every on the key stakeholder, every one of the key stakeholders in making this project happen. No small feat. We used their feedback to create a final proposal of how we would approach and build a digital studio as we move to phase two. So the importance of the communication, as we said in the previous lecture from the flawless consultant. So there was a tip to remember. So there were several tips for consultants and focusing on interpersonal dynamics and emotion. Yes, and to communicate on people, see what they think, what they feel, and so on. So that's very important to take your hand on pulse and to see what's happening in the company now, how you can influence it. So, and also it helps to work with resistance. It even helps to make a previous step, like do not make resistance able to happen, prevent it. Yeah, that also helps to communicate with. And also, we saw that you encourage the people you're working with to effectively communicate your ideas, you have to create space for people to share their fears. Also, the tips, I hope you remember them from the previous lecture. And we see that in the company Elixir, they use these tips to work, maybe with flawless consultants. They have read this book. So, walking the talk. Yeah, do you remember also this tip? To walk the talk. Consultant not only talk, but he walks. He make what he what he make what he talk what he is talking about. So here is where I saw Edison Elixir walk the talk. Showed our client that we're open-minded, flexible, and willing to continuously adapt and pivot the plan as we gained more insight into the organization, their objectives, and their project evolved. First few days, I was asked, and by the way, for many consultants, it's very hard to be flexible because many consultants thought that I'm an expert, I know how to do. Yes, they should do like me, like my experience said. Like my experience said, and they are not right, and I am right. I know how to do, and because I'm a consultant, and many of consultants also fear to change their opinion, change their way, because they think that the client will say, "Oh, it's not a professional. He changed his opinion. No. It's not an expert." And maybe in some companies that is true, but nowadays the world is more flexible. And also, we have different consulting companies. Yeah, maybe in some of them it is the value to be right, to be tough, and to go straightly on the line, and not to be and saying that changing the direction is the indicator of weakness. Maybe in some companies it is on some project, and this could be the projects that have a small life cycle, for example. So you should also, when you go to the company, ask about their values and the way of working. And modern trend, it's not must, but modern trend is to be more flexible. And the Elixir said that their value was to be more flexible, and also during their digital transformation, they brought that value into the company, and they also showed that they are flexible. So the first few days I asked to print business objectives and design hypotheses on large posters to hang in the conference room, which we named the digital garage, like Apple garage and so on. We wrote on those posters as the plan continued evolving, leaving room for adjustments, each hypothesis for the stakeholders to provide their input. We openly encouraged strong collaboration with the client team from day one. So you see the work with posters. So we have our digital world with Miro and so on, but they use online, offline decisions. And by the way, you can also use it online in Miro. And very, very effective, and to use the common place for work. It could be Miro, could be some kind of Kanban panels, like in Trello, for example, or Notion, or you can use the offline boards. very important. So different people see the same picture of the project. It also could be Gantt charts. Judgment Day was July 26th, the day we planned and executed a workshop involving all interviewed stakeholders to review the first draft of our proposed blueprint design. The workshop included activities and exercises for the stakeholders to decide how certain capabilities would be followed through. I was fortunate enough to be assigned the task of researching possible physical locations for the digital studio. It was one of my biggest responsibilities, and of course, I felt the pressure. Location was vital, so I needed to make sure my data was 100% correct. It was a great experience overall. So, do you remember we made a case on the coffee shop, and many of you examined the place where should the coffee shop be, and that's a great point. That's a great part of the project. Great that you have examined this question. Yeah, and it's and for example for restaurants, it's crucial. Location, and again location. Yes, as the restaurant masters say. So Eddie was responsible for that part, and also what you see. I needed to make sure my data was 100% correct. So that's also very important for consultants. So in your case studies, in your project, I see that you do not collect enough data. So some of you collect and some of you not, and you take the data from your head, from your experience. That's not a professional way of working. So you should have up-to-date and 100% correct data as you can find. Yeah, now we have education and we don't have so much time, but in that situation, you should find the most correct and the most up-to-date data with the time you have. You have 5 minutes, okay, you Google, you find some data, okay, that will be most up-to-date and most correct for you. You don't double check it, you don't have time. Okay, but you have some data. And when you go to the client, you say, I have data. I have the sources of data. You can see, okay, we have servers. The sources are rather good. And based on that sources, on the data, I've made my conclusion. That's very important. Not to take it from your head. So, and you see by Adi, she understands the importance of the correct data. So, go London Calling. Yes. After delivering our proposal by the end of the third week in Philadelphia, I took the initiative to see if I could go to the London office or work on any ongoing project elsewhere. Fortunately, I was offered the opportunity to head over to London for 2 weeks where I completed my internship. So that's one of the pluses of the consultancy work. So you can go to other cities, travel a lot. So 1 second, I'll double check the chat. Yeah. Okay. So this gave Eddie the unique experience of exploring not only 2 cities, but 2 working environments. An experience I greatly enjoyed and benefited from. One of the great aspects of the Elixir London office was that everybody works in an open plan environment where individuals can sit where they please. Partners set amongst managers and graduates, showing that hierarchy should never hinder collaboration. So that's also the value of the Y generation and of Z. I was given the opportunity to get involved in video editing and publishing, which being guided through the process allowed me to learn these previously unexplored areas. I also collaborated with the marketing and HR teams to understand and define that what unique tactics would optimize the search for the best legit candidate at career fairs. A task I could greatly release to and immerse myself in. The best part about working these projects was that I was helping Elixir expand different industries, including in the US. So you see on that part, Eddie did another work, so connected with the video and publishing and connected with HR. So there's also the plus of the consulting. So you can see how different ways of working fits yourself or doesn't fit. Yes, so you can try on. Yes, try on how they fit or not. Yeah, and of course, as I said, we as I said, we always made time to get a drink and socialize together as a team. Discussions did not always revolve around the project, and we love to celebrate even the smallest victories, such as a successful deliverable or milestone achievement. The London culture fascinated me more since workers took pleasure in grabbing a swift drink after work and catching up outside of the office. During my penultimate day, the firm arranged to buy drinks. And it talks a lot about the drink. There's a nearby bar for an employee who was leaving instead of a simple goodbye. Tom took pride in her work and supported her professional endeavors. So we see Eddie liked that experience. Yeah, so even former employees came to celebrate while reconnecting with current employees. Such relationships show that work life didn't have to consume one's personal life, and that Elixir employees, past, present, and future, remain close knit. Yeah, that's also the point. So, for example, I have a friendship with from my first work and my first professional work in business was in a consulting company, and 10 years passed, and I still have a friendship with my colleagues from the first company. With one of the colleagues, I'm still working on this project with the general company, and we also worked in his previous consulting company on business plans. I helped him in sales, and with other people we have communication, and that's very interesting because when you work in consulting, that atmosphere connects you with people. You are staying shoulder by shoulder, elbow by elbow, and that makes you closer to people. I also worked in house, in corporations, and there were no such connections. So that's my own experience. Maybe you have others, but I had that in consulting company. You are more connected with colleagues. So while understanding what a challenger consultancy does, I also challenged my own capabilities during my 8-week interesting internship journey. Every day was a test of what knowledge I was gaining and how I could optimize my analytical skills. I'll be honest and say that there was no one harder on me than myself during that process, because I wanted to ensure I was creating value for the firm. But I was wisely told that it's not about what you know, it's about what you learn. I was incredibly lucky to witness what the consultant life entails at each professional level. Nobody asked me to bring them coffee or arrange their personal errands. Alex still gave me the respect to understand what my position as an intern meant, a true learning experience, something I will value for a lifetime. Yeah, that's a great story. I think it's very optimistic. But how was the story for you? You can place the marks for this story from 1 to 10, how it was for you, and if you had some insights or thoughts, you can share them by voice or in the chat. Waiting for your feedback for this story. And by the way, I will copy some notes. You can see here Philadelphia on the right and London. Waiting for your feedback, and we will go to the next part of our lecture, phases of the consultant project.
It was clear and interesting. I think we go to the next part.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That was Grigory.
It's what Dmitry.
Dmitry. Yeah. Good day, Dmitry. Yeah, thank you for your feedback. So let's go further.
Yeah, I agree with Dmitry. Thank you. That was quite interesting and useful, I guess.
Okay. So stages, phases of the consultancy project. So let's go. It's from the flawless consulting. There's already set a bit of block. Let's start. The 5 phases of any consultancy project: entry and contraction, data collection and diagnosis, feedback and design correction, action, evaluation, and control. So you see also the roles of the consultancy. So here we can see the role of evaluator, and we can see the role of implementer on the action stage, and we can see the role of analytic on data collection and diagnosis, and we can see the work on engineer or design, backend design correction. So here we can see, I think I could, no, I wouldn't do this, I don't know much time. Yeah, so here we can see this role consultant. So let's go further. First, entry and contraction. In the book Flawless Consultant, there are a lot of information on contraction, and a lot of attention is given to this part, because if you have a good contract, you have less problems in your project, and less conflict situations with personal and even with your client. even with the stakeholders. So the first contact with client. You can have such telephone questions for the meeting. So what we want to discuss, who is the client for the project, who else be attending the meeting, and how much time we will have, and what want to begin some project, or we are going to discuss possibilities. So that's about the pre-work meeting. So you should have clear objectives for the meeting, research the organization, the client, truly, and consider how you will judge whether or not you can help the client. What other commitments do you currently have? So that's also important. In some situations, you could understand that you could not help the client, and that's okay. You should not take this project if you cannot help the client. That will be awful. So the purpose of entry of the contractual meeting is to establish rapport and credibility, build trust and confidence, develop common ground, and deal with anxiety on the part of the client. So that are the points that are very important. So that are the goals of your work. So key areas to cover with client. So that's the plan for your contractual meeting. So the definition of the problem. What is the problem? So we want to have some decision during our project, and what is the problem? We will find the solution. The second, reasons why problem needs to be addressed. Why? What's the importance of solving this problem? Criteria that any outcome must satisfy. What is desired state client is aiming for? So the dot B, we have dot A, the problem, we define it, and we have dot B, the place B, where we want to be, and what are the criteria of this point. Next, limits of client's authority power. Oh, that's very important, especially if you do not work with the owner of the company. So it could be the CEO, but not only CEO could invite you for the project. For example, it could be an IT director or an HR director, and they could have not have the all power of the company. They have the part of it, so you should know which part is. And client expectations of you, surely. So level of support you require from client, extent of confidentially. That's the point. Also, maybe you will have some contract on confidentially NDA. Resource constraints, deadlines, budget, access to stakeholders, release from job if training needs identified. So it's also important. You should end by summarizing what has been agreed and be prepared to go back and re-contract. The diagnosis with stakeholders reveals that your original contract was inappropriate. So that's also a very important point. During my work experience, I could share with you that I had one great business training. So I was on a lot of training, a lot of business trainings, sales and management, and one of them was, I think, the greatest. So that's a story that our CEO at that time, not the CEO, but the head of the department, said, I want to invite a business trainer, but I think you haven't heard about it. And I swear that this specialist is the best from the market that I could invite. So I can invite for you every specialist, but this is the best. We said, who is it? We don't know about him. We don't have his name. And also the head of the department said, and also I want your decision. I want you to share your bonus, your financial bonus, to buy this train. And he said, I could buy it from the department, but I want you to invest in it. And you can say no. Yes, that's okay. And as we trusted our head of the department very much, 100%, we said, yes, we want. But inside of us, there were a lot of skepticism. So we bought this trainer. We don't know even his name. So, and we are experts in sales. We are sales. We are business trainer in sales, and he will train us. He don't know us specific, our experience and so on. But when he went to the room and started the training, after 10 seconds of the training, everyone was looked like that and writing down and staring at him. It was a great trainer. And he told the phrase that I've learned for all my life, and I use it everyday life, every day, not only in work. He said, the negotiation or the conversation never ends. Never ends. So the discussion never ends. The negotiation never ends. The conversation never ends. That means that in every moment you can go to your partner, to your boss, to your employee, to your friends, to your wife, and change the things that you have mentioned, that you have some agreement, some contracts about. So you could say, oh no, I want to change our agreement. I want to change our contract. And that's okay. That's okay. And also you should do it. If you have some uncomfortable, because in other way, this uncomfortableness will come to angriness, to and your relationship will get worse. Have some uncomfortable, you should go and change agreement and have the negotiation. And that's not a must that you should say, I want to be my way. No, negotiations or conversation is not about your way or his or her way. It's about a common way that is good for all parties. And maybe in this situation, you will go for changing your wishes. But you should go for that for your own choice. So negotiation never ends. And as a contractor, if you see that something goes wrong, you should turn back to the contracting phase and maybe change the contract, change your agreement. That will be much better. It is much better for your relationship than when agreements, they are clear for all parties, for all people. They are clear, and we go through our agreements and we make them real. We don't define them. We are living on the agreements. It is very important to follow our agreements and to change them if they became uncomfortable. So that's also that will help us a lot, because the agreement that or the contract is clear between all of the parties, all of the people in the project, in the family, and so on. And that is that could be a great clue of the relationship. Or won't, if they are not clear, if we don't follow our agreements. So, the contract for formulation. First, boundaries of your analysis. So we're talking about one country, several countries, or how much goes should go in details and so on. Objectives of the project, I think that's clear. The kind of information you seek, your role in the project, the products you will deliver, what support and involvement you need from your client, time schedule and cost, and potentially acknowledgement, method of evaluation, and feedback. So that's a very important part of the contract. So, ground rules for contracting. Responsibility for every relationship is 50 to 50. We've talked about that on the previous lecture. Do you remember also in the Flawless Consulting, we have this chart, responsibility, yeah, here it is. So 50.50 responsibility. So contract freely entered into. You can't get something for nothing. There must be consideration from both sides. All wants are legitimate. Okay, and you can say no. That's also the core rule of negotiations, of conversation, of agreements. You can say no, that's okay. And also that business trainer recommended us a book about negotiations, and that is a book by Jim Camp, Just Say No. That is the book that learns you how to negotiate. First say no. It's paradoxal, but if you read the book, you understand why. And you don't always get what you want. That's also okay. Sometimes we should change our wishes and to collaborate. And you can contract for behavior, and you can't contract for the other person to change their feelings. You can promise something you don't have. You can contract with someone not in the room. Write down contract. Contracts are renegotiable, so negotiation never ends. Contracts acquire time deadline. That's also very important. So that's our ground rules. So you can see that you can use these ground rules even in contracting with your friends, with your colleagues, with your girlfriend or boyfriend, and so on, with your business partner. Ground rules for contracting. They are crucial in the consulting project. So the second, the data collection and diagnosis. The purpose of the data collection and diagnosis is to gather information from client and stakeholders in a non-judgmental and objective way. Non-judgmental. This is very important. Our goal is to develop a clear and simple picture of what is causing and maintaining client problem, including a description of the business problem the client has asked for help, and a description of how the problem is being managed. So that's the point. The steps in data collection and diagnosis. First, identifying the presenting problem. So dot A, the place A, where are we? As is. Making the decision to proceed, selecting the dimensions of inquiry, deciding who will be involved, selecting the data collection method, collecting data, funneling the data. So funneling the data is to just amazing the data. Data summary and data analysis. Additional points on data collection and diagnosis. First, distinguish between the presented problem and the underlying problem. Second, elicit and describe both the business problem and how the problem is being managed. Third, ask questions about the client's own personal role in causing or maintaining the presented target problem. So yeah, the client also has his role in causing of the problem that could hurt. Then client will talk about it. That will be truth. Yes, that will be a part of clearness. Fourth, ask questions about what others. But by the way, it's a high level of consciousness. So not all the people are ready for this. But you see, when you're on the sales stage of the project, you could not talk about it. You could also talk that so that in ads, in marketing, when people sell consulting and coaching, for example, common phrase, then they sell. They say, "That's not your fault. It's not your fault. There are lots of problems that make a pressure on you, and had these problems, but it's not your fault, and I could help you." That's the marketing trick, and I personally think that we can use it as a marketing trick. But when we go on working with clients, if we will stay on this position, that's not your fault, that's not your responsibility, I'll help you. So that will not be very fair, because as you remember in the tips of the flawless consultant, there was a tip that we should help the client to go by himself after we will finish the project. So that's our value, to help him to go by himself. Remember, it was the bicycle. It was here. Yes. Great consultant teaches company how to do things on its own, or how to not need to. So, and for that point, you should help your client to understand his responsibility for the problem. So next, ask questions about the client's own personal. Ask questions about what others in the organization are doing to cause or maintain the presented target problem. That's also important. So stage 3, feedback and design for action. What should we do? The engineering. Presenting findings, conclusions, and recommendations to a client when you undertake diagnostic work, you often discover information not known to the client. So that's also the value of you as a consultant. As this new information may throw a different light on the situation, it is important to meet with the client once the diagnosis and analysis is complete. The purpose of the meeting is to inform the client of the findings from the diagnosis and the conclusions you have drawn from them. Present broad recommendations, options for taking the work forward. So as we made in the, for example, in the coffee shop case, or in the case of women's fashion. So that had the data collection, and now we present it. And we present not only the data, and we also present our conclusions and our recommendations, what to do. Yeah, that is, so that's also our work. Obtain the client reactions to the work done. Yes, so how the client reacts, see it, and review the original contracts and agree a contracts for the next stage of the work, where appropriate. So remember, we also go for the contract, and we recontract, we contract for the next stage, and so we use the contract. And also, you see the coaches use the contract, the psychotherapists use the contract, even fitness trainers should use the contract to be effective, and so on. Everyone who works in some way of consulting and coaching. And the meeting sometimes proves to be the most difficult part of the process. Information collected may reflect badly on the client, or may contradict the client's own beliefs about the situation. Also, and if it contradicts, as you don't have provable data and correct data, you will be argued by the client. And the client will see that you're not a professional. But if you have the proven data, you will say, okay, I understand you. I understand your emotions. I understand why you're arguing about. Yeah, maybe it hurts. But we could work with it. So it's like on a visit to a doctor. The doctor can say to you things that are not pleasant by the analysis. But okay, that are the facts. What to do with them? But you can face the emotions of the clients. You should be ready for it. That's okay. Presenting this data requires you to achieve a delicate balance between sensitivity and directness. So you should be direct, you should be honest, but you should be sensitive for the client. You should be soft. You should be I will see this word. Careful. Yes, you should be careful, cautious, delicious, gentle to the client. That's also very, very important. Yet that business trainer also said very important to be careful with your party in negotiation. You should not be tough and press and be like tough negotiation. You saw this training. But you should be soft, but you should be persistent. You should be direct and persistent, but soft. That is the point. So, to help make the meeting a success, link the meeting to the previous action by reminding the client of the original contract. So that's the role of the contract. Remind the client and outlining the work done so far. Have an agenda structure for the meeting and agree with this with the client. Tell the client what you want to achieve by the end of this meeting. That's also a very important rule of the meeting, to say what you want to achieve at the end of the meeting, and also of the negotiation. And that business trainer also told us the mission of the negotiation. If named. Prepare the client for any surprises by informing him that findings contain new information. Or as our Russian humorist says, take the air into your lungs. before I'll tell you. Or sit down before I'll tell you. Report back the positive things discovered as well as the problems. That's the rule of the feedback, also to tell about the positive things. Tell them they expected before the unexpected. This allows the client to absorb and accept the straightforward information before hearing things likely to prompt an emotional reaction. So that's also the trick to say that it's expected, that it's unexpected. I think you use it in your communication. So to help them make a meeting a success, be prepared not to go beyond the boundaries of the initial contract. You do have recommendations which go beyond these boundaries. Prepare the client first. Accept that he/she may not wish to take this forward. That's also important for us to be in boundaries, not to become a preacher, a teacher for the client, and so on. The horrible mother, say in Russian. You shouldn't be the boss for the client. Oh. Outline on the issues in full so that the client understands the basis for any recommendations made. The basis, the information that you collected, the data. Trying to avoid an emotional reaction by skirting around issues and hoping the client reads between the lines will cause confusion. Client cannot make an informed decision without access to all the valuable information, to all the valuable data. All clients will have feelings about the information you present, may feel they need to justify, defend their actions. It is important to view this as a natural human reaction, rather than a personal attack that requires a response. So we've talked about the resistance, and that's one of the main parts of working with resistance. People are not, sorry for this word, people are not the baddest. So when they have the resistance, they have a reason to resist. And here, as a good consultant, should understand that and to help them to overcome it. The resistance, you should help them, and that's also the roles of that business trainer. You should help people to see that the pressures on them is not you, the situation. The situation pressures on them, not you. They shouldn't resist to you. They should take all their energy to manage the problem, to make a solution happen. There's also one of the greatest points in every negotiation also. You should help him or her to see that the problem is not you. The problem is the situation. You are not a foe for those people. You are not an aggressor. You are not something that they should fight with. No. If they should fight with the problem, not with you. Okay, let's go further. But you should be careful with these reactions. You should understand them. You should help people to overcome this reaction, like a good psychotherapist, like a good coach, but not like a mother or father who said, "It's okay, I understand you." Not, I don't know how this will be in English. Not to for them, not to be like with a baby. No, like a partner, like an old one with an old one. You remember their phases of like a child, parent, and an adult. Adult, not parent with a child. Agree to clear contract for the next stage of the work. It is helpful to write to the client after the meeting, summarizing what was discussed and agreed. That's also the point of consultant. Follow-up letter. After every meeting, you should send follow-up letter with what was discussed and agreed. That's the rule. If you don't use it, you will have problems in every project. So remember that like a pray. Follow-up letter after every meeting. And also link all recommendation to the payoffs required by the client. So the agenda of the feedback meeting should follow this step. First, restate the original contract. Second, state the structure of the meeting. Third, present diagnosis. Fourth, present recommendations. Recommendations. Not all of you had recommendations in your cases. For example, in coffee shop case. And that was the reason I make lower marks for those of you, for those of teams who had no recommendation in their presentation. Because if you have only frameworks and what, the client will ask you. And what I should do to this? Okay, you had this frameworks and how they are connected to me. And the direct recommendation. That is your work. That is your value. Step 5. Ask for client reactions. Be careful, ask about the client's reaction. 6. Halfway through the meeting, ask the client, are you getting what you want? That is very important question for the coach, trainer, consultant. You should understand that in some phases of the project, should be delicate with this question, but generally this question is very helpful. Are you getting what you want? 7. Decision to proceed. 8. Test for concepts of control and commitment. 9. Ask yourself if you got what you wanted. Also, you're also the party of the contract. Are you getting what you wanted? And also, when people start their working, for example, like freelancers, there is a common situation that people make more than they gain, and they can have an emotional burnout. That's true. Also, when people work in corporation and so on, in the relationship, or on even in romantic relationship, if you invest much more than your partner, you could think that you are a good guy or a good girl, and that's okay, or you are very, like it will be in English, very. Like a. I will remember that word. Or the Google will help me. Altruistic. We have this word in English. We are very altruistic. I don't know whether we have this word in English. Yeah, we have altruistic. So, but you can think that you're an altruist, but someday you will face with emotional burnout. You'll say, oh, I have a depression, or have some emotions, some rough emotions connected with anger, or maybe you will have some problems with your health. If you're a very good guy, very good girl, and don't want to tell people about what you want, about your needs. So be sure about this balance. Yes, in other way you'll have problems. And if you invest much less than your partner, that also will be a problem. Maybe your partner in the position of the victim, and that could be comfortable for you, but in the long distance there will be problems. Okay, more about psychology, but in the consulting project that's also important. And 10, give support. That's your work, to give support. but like an adult to adult, and not like a parent. So next, design for action and implementation. Key points to note. And design and intervention, the starting point of thinking should be the issues undefined, identified in the diagnostic, and not similar interventions you have encountered or recommended before. So after the investigations, there could be another. That's also okay, because now you know more information. Second, if you allow yourself to be hooked into thinking about the familiar, you will lose sight of the diagnosis and simply rehash what has been done before. Just not thinking about the familiar, thinking about the new information, not only about that you have known before. Third, objectives for the intervention must be based on the diagnosis and on the contract agreed with the client. Should clearly relate to the needs of the client and goals of the project. In particular, they should reflect the payoff required by the client and customer. So I think 5-7 minutes we need. Design for action and implementation. Yes, for models, theories, and off-the-shelf support materials. Models, theories, off-the-shelf support materials should be chosen with care and used sparingly. As the best, they will approximate the situations experienced by the client. Used inappropriately, they can be useful, but can also divert attention away from the difficulties of dealing with real work issues. Yeah. Frameworks are cool, but the real situation is better. Examine if they're useful in this situation. Fifth, the intervention should facilitate their recommendation. You can prepare the client to face and overcome workplace resistances by building activities that recognize how people deal with change. So we will talk about this on the seminars. Implementation of our recommendations should be managed as a change project. Yeah. So every consulting project is a change project. And it should be managed like a change project. So next stage is action, and on that stage, implement change strategy, which may or may not include training, support the client, monitor progress, and so on. Be persistent, but be careful. Be a good trainer, a good coach, a good analyst, working with elements and instructions and so on. And stage 5, evaluation and withdrawal. So on that stage, on action, you will face with people's resistance, with lack of motivation, and so on. Should have some tricks. Use some tricks on this stage. We will talk about it also. And the next stage, evaluation and withdrawal. So the purpose of the stage is to measure the result of the exercise in terms of learning and business benefit, and disengage from the client, retaining goodwill. There are a number of issues to be considered at this stage. First thing the consultant must decide is what is that he or she is evaluating. Is it the relationship with the client and how well the exercise has been handled by both parties? Or the business benefit derived as a result of the intervention? I personally think the both are important. And it's probably the both, they will always be something for the consultant to learn in terms of how they manage both clients' relations and the process. And you could be on this. These are two parts. They are two edge parts. You can only think about the business results and do not think about the relations, and that will be a problem. If you think only about the relationship and not about the business result, that's also a problem. So the second issue is when and what to evaluate. Evaluation is a front-end process during the beginning of the project. Consultant and client will be clear and contracting when and what to evaluate. To retain goodwill and obtain future business, the consultant could bring the client 3-4 months later to inquire how client is getting on, example with implementing recommendations, etc. For example, I ring my coach clients after 3-4 months, even half of the year, and a lot of results come after the coaching, even half year after. Client will either A, confirm some business benefits at this stage, or B, possibly request further help with some issues, and C, may have a new product which he or she wishes to discuss. And that's a good way for selling the next project through this evaluation. And also you will have the case, and this is the marketing material for you. So key points to know: work towards a situation where the client's unit is equipped to carry forward the project independent of external aid. Commitment to resources, systems, and expertise within the organization are factors that will need to be considered when planning your withdrawal. Avoid leaving too abruptly. The more dependent the client has been on you during the process, the more you will need to face your withdrawal. As we said, have the client be independent from you. So we've finished this part, the 5 stages of the consultant project. How it was for you? If you have some comments and questions, you are free to ask them. We can also, if you want to have a break, you can also ask questions on the seminar. That's okay. But some of your feedback by voice or by chat, please tell me something, and we will finish this lecture. So I see you are leaving the room. So thank you that you was an election. I also send the feedback form. Will send in the Telegram. So please fill it. Also very important for me. Thank you. Have a good day. See some of you. I hope all of you on the seminar. And so we are going to the break. Thank you.
Thank you. See you in seminars.